my experiences with OCD. We talk about Taco Bell launching nacho fries, and we go on a little bit about my broadcasting experiences, among a few other things. So let's start the podcast. Hey, welcome to the Thinking is Infinite podcast with Joe
and John.
And we'd like to talk about, let's start with a little autism segment. So.
Yeah, typically, as anyone who's heard our podcast before, almost every podcast, right, Joe? We talk about Joe, and Joe is on the spectrum, and Joe loves to discuss a little bit about some of his struggles, some of his things that he's conquered throughout the years. And today's subject is something that Joe presented to me, and I just know the subject matter, and I'm going to let him roll. So, Joe, the only subject matter I know is you wanted to talk about OCDs.
Yeah, basically, actually, pretty much every one of us has our own, like, OCDs, except for, my sister, Kayla, and, I think maybe one of my other brothers doesn't. I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about your siblings?
Yeah, my siblings. Ryan and I have OCDs, or had OCDs in the past. My OCD was actually, I had to make sure that everything was in order. I had to make sure that everything was organized by, like, a number or by color or whatever. I'd have to organize everything. Now I actually have, like, a different OCD for some reason has been popping up recently. It's like, I have to check everything. Like, I have to check things, like, a million times. Like, I'll go and, like, check my alarm, like, just to make sure it's on. I'll go, like, check it, like, 10 times before I go to bed. Like...
You do, huh? I didn't know that. Yeah. You know, the interesting thing about OCD is obsessive compulsive disorders, right? Is what it's called. Is like not everyone with autism has an OCD, and not everyone with an OCD is autistic, right?
No.
So it's very interesting. And talk to me about the... All right, you have the new thing, which is the most in your head, is like checking the alarm. What is it about doing it? You check it once, and then what is it about doing it the next few times that makes you want to check it again? What's going through your head when you're checking it the second and third and fourth and fifth? Or how many times do you check it?
I check it sometimes I've checked it like 6 times before, and it's usually because I'm afraid that the alarm won't go off, so I'll just click it again, like, just to make sure it'll go off, and I'll just keep going until I'm like, okay, enough, you're going to sleep. I've managed to gain control of that one. It was just a bit more recent that started to happen. I've managed to kind of gain control of that as well.
Hold that thought for a second. Hold that thought. Don't forget what you were ready to say, because I do want to hear it. Is it because you didn't set your alarm? Is that why you started to check it over and over and over again? Was there a bad experience with an alarm?
Actually, weirdly enough, kind of, but not really. I think there was one time where I did, like, kind of wake up without it, but I think I began checking it earlier than that. So, even before, like, that experience came in, I began to, like, check it repeatedly. And this occurred, like, I think, the last time I did it was around, like, a few months ago, so this was actually pretty recent. And, it kind of went away, but I still have, like, this thing. I've just been able to resist it, you know what I mean?
So you have to check it once or twice, you're like, that's it, it's set, it's fine?
Yeah, pretty much. I've just been able to resist it.
But now, have you had urges to go and do it again?
Yes, I have.
Ah, interesting. So it really hasn't totally gone away. You just manage it a little bit.
Yeah.
And were you about to say there was another one that you had?
Yeah. This one I had when I was really little. It was when I had to organize everything in a sequence. So I would have, like, if I had, like, different objects and they were unorganized, I'd really go, I have to organize them in a specific pattern for me. And, like, I had that type of OCD before. But that one largely went away. That one didn't really last that long. And, I just kind of, that OCD was really when I was little.
Now, obsessive compulsive disorders is when, it kind of gets fixated in your head, and a lot of kids on the spectrum have some measure of an OCD, correct? I mean, in your research, you've seen that. What is the, do you have any others that are going on at this moment that you're kind of dealing with? Or I know you used to, like, kind of have a routine at night. Do you still have that same routine at night where you kind of listen to music and you kind of, and like, what's your, like, night routine that, because that can be somewhat obsessive compulsive, right? If you get fall into a routine.
That's I sort of have a night routine, but not quite as much. Like, it's more loose. Like, I'll do the things like listen to music, brush my teeth, and put my pages on. But first of all, I won't do them in a specific order.
Okay,
sometimes,
so it's
and like second of all, it's usually loosely defined as to what time I have to do it. So like sometimes I'll do it like very early at night. Sometimes I'll do it very late.
Okay,
like,
so I wouldn't
it's
define
not even really
that.
it's not really a routine.
No,
it's
I wouldn't
just
define
like
that
loosely...
as obsessive compulsive. Obsessive compulsive, I think, would fall into the more of at 8:05 I must do this. If I don't do this, I'm going to be in trouble. Or you're closing a cabinet over and over again. Now the alarm clock thing is something that's very interesting. It's one of those things where did it make you feel more comfortable every time you checked it?
Yeah, but then I'd always get the urge to check it again, just to make sure. I'd get that urge. I'd also get the urge to like check the medicine cabinet to make sure that like my medicine was put away.
Okay.
You got a fear that like my dog might get it, so that was kind of a thing. And
so you thought of another one?
Yeah. That was kind of a thing, so I guess that was actually around the same time as the alarm one. So that was they were at the same time.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Now, was there something going on in your life at that time that was stressing you a little bit? That you had about two that came up around the same time?
I don't really think so, no. It wasn't like, I think the major change might have been school, because we were just going back to school at that time, like after like a year of virtual learning, so maybe that kind of set in where like, I need to be ready for school on time, because that hadn't been for 2 years, so I think that might have maybe
you know what, Joe?
it,
I really think
that.
It's interesting with you. It very well may be when there's a change in your life, when there's something that has been changed. Like, maybe that this is something you can get ahead of. Like next, as you have a summer break, and then when you come off of your summer break, you have to keep in mind, okay, I have to make sure I don't get too obsessive compulsive over this. I think it might actually be tied into changes in your life.
Maybe. I feel like, because like that was just before school started, and that's when the OCDs really started to come in. And that was just before school started.
Because you got to be on point. You got to be
on time,
and you take your medicine in the morning. So you got to.
The virtual learning was a lot looser and would often be. It wasn't even really really set times, and if it was really late. It was actually later. It was at 8:00 when it would start on some days. So that was also kind of the case where I had to wake up later. So
and I've
wake up earlier.
I've heard that sometimes obsessive compulsive disorders can be kicked on, or something can turn the switch and flip the switch when a traumatic event happens or a major change in life. I'm not one that has had too many of them growing up, but I did have a few things that I don't know if they were considered obsessive compulsive or just maybe superstitions or routines. Listen, as humans, we all are a creature of habit, and we tend as people to, regardless of whether you're on the spectrum or not, to repeat a process if it's something that has a good outcome. you know, and I think that a lot of that is just very normal. But I know kids that are on the spectrum tend to be a little more obsessive compulsive, right?
Yeah, sort of, because while, yes, autism and obsessive compulsive are sort of linked, they're not, they're kind of semi-linked, because it's like, you know, if you have autism, you're more likely to have an OCD, but I don't even know if that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong, any, autistic experts, but yeah, I think they're kind of associated with each other, but, you can have an OCD without having anything else. You can also have, OCDs with other things, like ADHD. So, sometimes you'll have ADHD and OCDs can be linked, too. You can also have, just an OCD by itself, or autism by itself. So, there's sort of, ramifications to that, and I feel like every kind of thing is different, you know?
Yeah, and one of the things I also heard as we wrap up this segment is that, just because someone's on the spectrum, they're still just like everyone else on Earth. You're your own unique snowflake, meaning every snowflake is different. Right now we just got dumped a foot and a half of snow, but you know what? And what they say is, I've never looked under a microscope, but they say every snowflake is different. Well, every human is different. Every human on the spectrum is different. Joe is not like famous autistic people or a movie. He's his own person, and just everyone else out there is their own unique person. They have their own unique styles and ways. And I think the most important thing right now is to always have a good understanding of something like an OCD or something, or some of the other struggles that Joseph has had, because there are similarities, not so much. You're not exactly alike, but there are similarities when it comes to certain things. That's
true. And autism is also a bit more complicated, too, because there's so many different types. There's Asperger's, there's, I'm sure there are other types. The only one I've heard of is Asperger's, but I've heard that there are so many different types, and they're also, and even within those types, there's still kind of different reactions between people. So there is sort of a kind of variation of how autism affects people. That's why autism can really only be determined by a doctor and not really by parents themselves. Parents have some warning signs, or not really warning signs, but signs that your kid might be autistic, but they can't determine that themselves. You have to go to a doctor for that.
Yeah, and you know what? And if one of the things that it's a very to always have hope, and one of the reasons why we do this podcast is that here's Joe at closing in on 16. He's going to be 16 very soon, and he's come so far in his life that if you have a child that's young and maybe struggling, just keep up at it. Don't ever give up. Things will get, and celebrate every milestone, celebrate every moment where your child has a developmental milestone, and it really will pile up over the years. And I've watched Joe evolve, and when Joe was first diagnosed, I didn't know what the future held for him. I didn't know if he'd be talking. I didn't know where he'd be in life, and it was very difficult. It was one of the hardest times in my life, is to try to wrap my head around where Joe can be. And the lesson, if I had to go back in time and talk to my old self, is don't worry, celebrate every win, and watch how much he changes over the years. And this is not a day game. You can't change it overnight, but little things will get better, and be ready for any complication after that. Joe, you've been doing great. I love it, and I'm so proud of you. And thank you for sharing what you've been going through.
You're welcome. And we'll wrap up this segment, and we'll see you on our next. Hey, and welcome to our next segment. And we have a few little articles that we'd like to talk about here.
Yeah. Well, again, one of the things that Joe and I like to do is we like to share articles and things that interest us. And I sent Joe some articles this week, and he read them, and we found them kind of fascinating. So, Joe, why don't you kick off and tell the audience what we were talking about?
Yeah, there was actually two very interesting articles
about outer space, right?
About outer space.
Our space too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And there was one about an odd like star, and it kind of had like this pulsating, and it was sending like radio waves.
Yeah,
to Earth.
we're getting
Like
radio
signals.
we're getting signals from how was
A
it, another
faraway star
galaxy,
4,000 light years away, and that's actually relatively close compared to other stars out there. So it's like they said it could be a pretty like a dwarf star or like something like that, or it could be like another very powerful star. It also has to have like a powerful magnetic field in order to send that type of radiation back to Earth.
Yeah, and what interests me is the pulsating part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I find that fascinating. Like, what the heck is that thing? Imagine it's something out there trying to communicate with us, because we really don't know. We're just going off of theory, right, of what it could be.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting some type of signals from, what would you say, 4,000 light years away?
4,000 light years away.
I mean, that is pretty crazy. Imagine what it could be. Imagine if it's something out there that is communicating in its own way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or maybe it's just like, stars and radio signals, but it could definitely be it could be as simple as that, or it could be maybe a spacecraft or something, or maybe it could be
just
even
something.
like some sort of magnetic field, maybe like magnetic pulsating vibes. You don't really know what these things are, because they're actually kind of hard to spot. I mean, it's like 4,000 light years away. Even then, that's not exactly close.
No, and I think what I find fascinating is we've come so far through the years and been able to see and hear and shoot up telescopes that can see so much more. And I think we're on the cusp of finding something big. I think something big we're going to find over the next few years. Just my hunch, of what we're gonna find out. Are we going to find out another being, another Earth-like planet? We talked about this on a previous podcast, right, Joe? We were talking about whether we believed in UFOs or life other than here on Earth, right? And there certainly is a possibility when you talk about if there's that many stars. And how many can be within what they call the habitable zone?
The habitable zone, yeah.
And then if something is within that habitable zone of that star, there could very well be life existing there, right, Joe?
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole part of this, because like it's very, very possible that there could be life out there, and there could be, something maybe even within that star's solar system, like maybe that star that's pulsating, maybe it has a planet that is habitable near it, and if that's the case, then, that's very interesting. Like, they'd have to have a lot of things. That planet would have to have maybe it would have its own form of water, maybe it would have water, or maybe the life forms on it have learned to survive without water and rely on a different liquid,
Yeah, and what's that other story that we had? That was a really interesting story, and it came with a video. And Joe, maybe what you could do, here's a good idea, to post the link of that on our Facebook page, so everyone who is listening to this podcast can go to our Facebook page and actually watch the video that we saw. So Joe, tell the audience about that. The video of it is considered an unidentified flying object. We don't know if it's from outer space, but we both watched it. So Joe, talk about what you saw.
It was very weird. It was actually a very, very small object. It was not big at all, and it kind of looked like maybe it could be a drone, but it didn't like appear to have like those like helicopter pads, like those like if you have like a drone, you have like those little like the ones that like spin around, the propellers. It didn't appear to have that, and it also had like this like V on like the top.
And
I don't know what it was, and it was fast. Yeah, it was really quick.
It was way too fast to be a drone, and that's why I want everyone that is listening to this, go to the homepage, to our Facebook page, and watch that video, because it was really fascinating. It's one of those things that I did it on my phone and Joe did it on his phone. You gotta have to scroll down past some ads, but there's the video there, and it's this fast-moving, bizarre-looking. You said it was like V-shaped. Joe equated it. He said, "Oh, it looks like the Batmobile, right? Is that what you called it, or something?"
Yeah,
like
it kind of looked like a mini, kind of like an odd like thing that Batman would come out with, like those like the Batmobile would how it would like transform into something that looks like something it would transform into.
Yeah, it was so cool. And I don't know what it was. It's either now. Here's the thing. It almost looked like it had right. Didn't the article say it almost looked like it had a camera? Now, if it had a camera, it's probably somewhat Earth-like, right? I don't think I've never heard of any UFOs having cameras or anything like that. What
is strange though?
It's strange. It could be such just incredible technology that we have. Maybe who knows that we are hiding as a government? Because it was over New Jersey, Joe.
Yeah, and also the big thing is it also appeared that not only was it going very quickly, but it was also kind of hard to see because it was very cloudy on that day, and it might very well be like a technology that maybe we have maybe like the U.S. government's been trying to hide some sort of new drone technology that they have, or maybe it's some sort of I don't know, maybe it was like a weapon. I don't know. Like it could be. It's very small, so it can't really be like a plane. So I'd assume it'd have to be like some sort of either a drone, a UFO, or probably some sort of like small, like a large torpedo. I don't know.
So do us a favor when you're listening to the podcast. Go to the Facebook page, watch the video, and comment and tell us what you think it is.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We'd love to know what your opinions are, right?
Yeah, it was very strange. But one thing that's actually not very strange is something that Taco Bell is doing.
Good segue from UFOs to Taco Bell.
Also,
Joe, let's hear it.
Okay, Taco Bell is relaunching nacho fries. They had like a trailer, and they had like the audience make the trailer. Now, I think that's a very interesting idea, but I think they're odd. They have like an odd like teaser, like something like a spicy new edition, which I assume means that they're coming out with like a spicy version of nacho fries, which might be cool. I just like Taco Bell. I like Taco Bell, but I really like their nacho fries because they really have like really good fries there, but they're very a limited time offering. But when they do come out, I always look forward to them because, man, those fries are amazing. I didn't even get to like try them last time they came out.
Oh, you know what I saw, Joe? It's funny that we segued from UFOs to Taco Bell, but Taco Bell, I saw a commercial where you actually can join like the taco club and you get a taco a day for 30 days for $10. And I thought about that. I'm like, you know what? It's a great marketing idea by Taco Bell because a lot of people are going to get the pass because it's cool. You have a little pass on your phone that you can just go to Taco Bell and get a free taco. Every time you go there, you're going to get more than one taco, so you're probably going to get a couple other things. And no one can eat Taco Bell every day for 30 days.
No,
if you can, God bless your stomach, because I don't know how you can handle it. But, I thought that was a very interesting marketing technique because now they're getting $10 a month from everyone, and and everyone who's going to get this pass is going to want to eat at least 10 times a Taco Bell.
Probably,
right?
Yeah.
So that they get people coming back over and over again because people want to get their free taco, right?
Yeah, and also, like I said, it's impulse buying. Once you go there, you're probably not just getting one taco. Even if you're just getting like a drink, that helps out. Like, even like because drinks are actually very profitable. So even like if you're just getting like a drink, it still kind of helps.
Me personally, I don't eat Taco Bell that often, but when I do, I never just get one. You get a few things. You get 2 or 3 things, and you get a drink. So I think it's a great marketing play on their part, right, Joe?
Yeah, me too. And that will conclude our
UFOs and Taco
Bell
segment, right, Joe?
Yep, and moving on
IRL
to
coming up.
IRL. Hey, and welcome to our IRL segment, and this time we're actually not driving, so...
Yep, we're just hanging out. So we're gonna wrap up this podcast, and we want Joe has a topic, and I want to ask Joe about a topic. So Joe, why don't you fire away first?
Here's my topic. Broadcasting. I've just gotten news back.
That's right. I'm glad you told me because you know what? We talked about it in the last podcast. So tell me about what's happening.
Well, two things. One, I have gotten a position as I worked teleprompter, and two, a very exciting kind of thing. I've gotten a tentative spot to be an anchor.
Nice.
So they said that I might be an anchor. They didn't say for what because they're still trying to figure that out. But they said that I have like a spot as an anchor, or at least a tentative spot.
That is amazing. Congratulations. When did you hear this?
Just today.
I knew it had to be today because I asked you about it last Friday because in the last podcast I think Joe mentioned that he was going to find out on Friday if he was going to get an anchor position, and
they didn't figure that out quite yet because they have to meet and discuss who's gonna go on and for what, you know.
Oh my God, Joe, that's fantastic! I cannot wait to hear, because here's the thing, meaning that you're going to be on the air again. You are going to be an anchor again. It's just a matter of when at this point. Mm-hmm. Joe was mentioning that they do filming a few times a week and in the last podcast, he was talking about he was going to get a new job, right? Or a new assignment. Mm-hmm. And for you to get this, Joe, I'm so proud of you. I cannot wait.
Thanks.
We are going to play his segments on the air on our next podcast, right, Joe?
Maybe.
It won't be, may not be necessarily on the next podcast, but the next time he does any on-air work, I would love to share it with all you guys, and if Joe's okay with it, we'll share it with you guys.
Okay,
that's
Sounds
awesome,
good.
Joe. Oh, and one of the other things that I want to talk. We may be getting a guest soon. I don't want to reveal too much after that because we're working on it. I talked to Joe about it. It's someone who's pretty awesome, and
she's very close with
us. So yeah, and we're hoping that we have a guest soon, and when we do record, we'll definitely we can't wait to put it out there for all you guys, and you'll hear a different perspective and our first female perspective on the show, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And
that would be very interesting.
And one of the last things I want to talk about on this IRL segment is, Joe, it's been coming up a lot in the news and the world and stuff, and I really wanted to hear your opinion of it because you are someone who does get a lot of information off YouTube, right? You do watch a lot of YouTube, you watch some videos, you watch, everyone does in this world. I do it all the time. I do it for things like when I need to fix something in my house and I don't know how to do it, I watch a YouTube video on how to do it. So YouTube is a very platform that I use, and it's good for, a lot of different things. Some of the things that have been happening lately in this world that I'm not a big fan of is YouTube censorship. Has it come across your radar, or have you heard about anything
you mean demonetization? Not
demonetization so much. It's one of the things that right now there's the biggest podcaster in the world is this guy Joe Rogan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he does it strictly through Spotify, and he's got an exclusive deal with Spotify.
Okay.
And one of the things that he's been under the gun and catching a lot of heat from people is because he put a few doctors out there that were, let's just say they weren't big fans of the vaccination. Mm-hmm. So one of the things and a lot of people are coming down on him and they're coming down on Spotify and they're putting a lot of pressure on Spotify is because he had this podcast. Now, Joe, I listened to one of the two that have been so-called controversial. And the thing that I noticed is the podcaster's asking questions to this guy. Okay, and he's asking questions to one of the founders of the mRNA technology that is the vaccine.
Yeah,
and this guy is not a fan of the vaccine. And I thought it was a very interesting podcast. The host of the podcast did not take a side. He really didn't. He was just asking a lot of important questions. They want to label his podcast misinformation. I have a big problem with the word misinformation. And I know a lot of the YouTubes out there are banning people because they are using what they call as misinformation.
But also, misinformation is very harmful. I feel like it needs to be addressed. I feel like because, I mean, I guess it really does, like, it has to be addressed on both sides, because both sides spread it, but for some reason, some people claim, oh, well, right-wing misinformation is targeted more, left-wing is targeted more. I think it really depends on the loudest crowd. I feel like they just target whoever speaks the loudest. It's more convenient for them. Think about it. Their company. They're not going to target people if people aren't really speaking out about it, because they want to make money off of that content. They don't really care about stuff that actually violates their rules. Like, I've heard there has been so many times where YouTube and a bunch of these platforms will just let blatant, like, animal abuse, child abuse, and, like, other things like that on their platform, and they won't take it down. And I've heard so many things like that.
Now, listen, violence, yes, I'm all for getting rid of the violence off of social media platforms. But where I have a problem, Joe, and I knew this was going to be a topic that you and I can discuss, and you may have a different point of view, and I think the best thing about a podcast is to have differing points of views. Now, what I consider, last year, there were a few things that would have gotten you banned off of YouTube that have come out to be true. Mm-hmm. Last year, if you would have said on YouTube that the mRNA vaccine does not stop you from getting COVID or stop you from spreading COVID, you would have been banned. That would have been banned under misinformation. And it was banned at that time. Now, both of those things are actually true right now.
It helps you prevent the spread, but it doesn't totally prevent it. It doesn't totally stop it.
I did a ton of research before I got the vaccine. And what I learned was, even then, last year, I learned this. It will not stop you from getting it. It will help you in fighting it.
And it
won't stop you from getting it, and it will
also reduce the risk, but it won't stop you.
Right, and it won't. And at that time, you could technically still get COVID with the vaccination. You can still spread COVID with the vaccination. Let's just say get vaccinated and you get COVID, you can still spread it.
So the chances are just lower.
Exactly, but now with the Omicron, it has become extremely clear that people that are vaccinated are getting it. People that are vaccinated are getting it and spreading it. I'm right there. I'm one of the people who got it. So what I'm trying to say, Joe, is who out there should determine what is misinformation?
Well, that's the hard part, because, like, if you could say, oh, well, current science should determine that. But science is kind of always changing, and also, like, it's also the type of information also varies. Like, some of it is a lot more harmful than others. Some of it is just blatant lies. But other parts of these things aren't exactly untrue. It's kind of like you have to flag certain things, but not others, and you have to determine what can be flagged and what can't be. Is complicated.
And this is why, Joe, and I knew you were going to be a perfect example for this. I knew this was going to be a good conversation with you, because I disagree. I don't think anyone should ever ban someone for what they call misinformation. I think that is a very loaded question, because I could watch network news and find misinformation left and right on any story that they do. Now, what I like is the open forum for ideas. I may not agree with you. Let's just say, Joe, we had politicians from both sides of the aisle, okay, in our car right now. And one said one thing, one said the other. I like that. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear both points of views. I want to hear different people say different things, and I want to make up my own mind. When there's one person or one organization or one company that is in charge of saying, I like this point of view, I don't like this point of view, so the one I don't like, I'm going to call misinformation. And the other point I want to make, Joe, is this, and I want you to really think about this. Let's just say one of us, God forbid, let's just say Dad was sick. Me. I was sick, and I went to a doctor, and I got one opinion, okay? And it wasn't good. And then I went to a second doctor, and I got a different opinion. And then I went to a third doctor and got a different opinion. So when you go to doctors often disagree with themselves, with each other. So when it comes to things like something like COVID and why can't you allow another doctor, medical doctor, to say, listen, I don't agree with this. I agree with another opinion. I don't understand why that person needs to be banned. And that makes me very suspicious about the people who are doing the banning.
Well,
have you thought about that, Joe?
I actually kind of have. I feel like there is a sort of importance to stopping some misinformation, not all of it, because not all of it is misinformation. Some of it's just blatantly false, but like some of it's just like blatantly false banning. But I feel like there is an importance to stopping some misinformation, because some of it can be genuinely harmful and can harm society. Right. But other parts of it shouldn't be stopped because they're just valid points.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? I encourage everyone out there to really question each other, question yourselves, and thank you so much for listening into this podcast today.
Yep, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Yep. Bye.
And that concludes our podcast. Don't forget to, just share this. Make sure to give us a follow and make sure to leave us a review. We really do appreciate it. And see you next week. Bye!